I woke up to the sound of sirens. Not the usual police or fire truck wails, but deep, groaning horns that made the walls hum and my teeth ache. The emergency broadcast system came on, crackling through my old kitchen radio. Chemical anomaly detected. Shelter in place. Avoid all contact with outdoor air. Do not approach Sector 9. Sector 9. That was the power plant. 5 miles from my apartment. I walked to the window and saw a thick black plume stretching across the horizon. The wind wasn't carrying it toward the city, at least not yet. But something about the way the smoke moved made my skin crawl. It didn't billow like fire. Twisted, almost like it was writhing in pain. As I stared, I noticed movement around the plant. At first, I thought they were rescue crews. But no, rescue crews didn't move like that. They were too tall, too thin, their limbs bending unnaturally as they drifted between the cooling towers. One of them stopped, its head tilted sharply, like it had heard me breathing. Then the radio's voice changed. It wasn't the usual robotic announcer. It was a whisper, low and wet, crawling into my ears. "We see you." The power in my building went out. And in the distance, the shadows started walking toward the city. The first knock rattled my door so hard, I thought someone was trying to break it off the hinges. 3 slow, deliberate thuds. No one in my building knocks like that. I backed away, my eyes flicking to the front window. Outside, the sky had gone a strange gray-green, and the street was empty. No cars, no people, just that creeping smoke rolling closer. Another knock, but this time, it came from the back door. I live on the 2nd floor. There is no back door. The radio crackled again, except it wasn't on. Containment failed. They are no longer bound to the plant. Somewhere in the distance, something metal screamed. It was the sound of steel twisting, ripping apart. I could see the plant's tallest smokestack collapse, sending a shockwave of dust and ash across the horizon. And then I saw them. Figures, tall, hunched silhouettes, moving down the main road toward the city. Their steps weren't quick. They were patient, like they already knew where I was. The nearest one passed under a streetlight, and for a moment, I saw its surface wasn't skin. It rippled, as if its body was made of the same smoke pouring from the destroyed plant. The air in my apartment shifted, thicker, harder to breathe. My throat burned. They didn't just release chemicals. They made something, and it was coming. I grabbed my jacket, but the moment I opened my door, the stairwell was full of it. Black, twisting vapor sliding up toward me like a living thing. Paused, and then it reached. I slammed the door shut, my hands shaking so hard I nearly missed the lock. The sound on the other side wasn't smoke. It was wet, like something dragging itself up the walls. A low thud echoed from the apartment below me. Then another. Then silence. I pressed my ear to the floor. There was breathing. Not human breathing, too deep, too slow and layered, like several throats exhaling at once. The hall lights flickered, then went dead. In the blackness, something scraped against my door. I could hear it sniffing, the sound sharp and damp. My lungs burned from whatever was in the air, but I kept my mouth covered with my sleeve. A crash split the silence. One of the downstairs windows shattered, followed by a neighbor's scream, short, cut off mid-breath. Heavy, uneven footsteps began climbing the stairs, and the boards groaned under its weight. I backed toward my bedroom window. From here, I could see the plant in the distance. Half of it gone, swallowed by its own black cloud. And on the streets below, more of them were coming. Dozens now, maybe hundreds. The footsteps stopped outside my apartment. I didn't dare move. Then the door handle turned slowly. Once, twice, and then the door began to bulge inward, as if something on the other side was pushing against it. Not with hands, but with its entire body, forcing the wood to warp and splinter. I didn't stay to see it break. I climbed out the window onto the fire escape, the cold metal groaning under my weight. Somewhere below, something looked up at me. The eyes weren't human. They glowed faintly in the streetlight, pale and milky, like they'd never seen daylight. It didn't lunge. It just tilted its head and stepped backward into the shadow of the building, disappearing like it was never there. I didn't trust it was gone. The fire escape rattled as I climbed down, every creak feeling louder than a scream. The air was heavier here, the chemical stink burning my nose and throat. A fine black dust clung to my jacket. Halfway down, I froze. Across the street, a man was standing in the middle of the road. His back was to me, clothes torn, his skin the color of ash. He wasn't moving until his head rolled slowly to the side. Not turned. Rolled. The sound of tearing metal made me whip my head toward the power plant. One of the remaining cooling towers split open, the sides peeling apart like wet paper. From inside, something long uncoiled into the night sky. I couldn't make out its shape through the smoke, but I could hear it, slow, deep movements, like a ship's hull groaning under pressure. The man in the road began to walk toward me. I hit the ground and ran. Every block was worse. Cars abandoned, doors hanging open, and in the distance, the shapes moved between buildings, their bodies blending with the shadows. They weren't rushing. They didn't have to. I rounded a corner and froze. The street ahead was lined with them. Tall, crooked figures standing perfectly still, heads tilted toward me. The smoke from the plant curled around their feet like it was alive. Behind me, the man's footsteps stopped, and then I heard more. From every direction. The sound of their steps wasn't like boots or bare feet. It was soft, almost padded, like something walking on wet cloth. They closed in slow, their long arms hanging nearly to the ground. The smoke swirled around them, and every time it brushed a car or building wall, the surface hissed and blackened. I backed up until my shoulders hit cold brick. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. One stepped forward. Even hunched, it was taller than any man I'd ever seen. Its skin was dark and slick, stretched tight over jutting bones, and its face, if you could call it a face, was just a smooth, wet surface that reflected the streetlight like oil. It raised an arm, slow and deliberate, until its long fingers brushed the hood of a nearby car. The metal sagged under its touch, the paint bubbling and peeling away. The others began to move now, silent, gliding steps closing the circle. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a rusted metal pipe lying in the gutter. My hands were slick with sweat, but I gripped it tight. The first one lunged. It didn't roar or scream, just moved faster than I could think. I swung the pipe, hitting it across the side. The impact was like hitting wet sand. The pipe sank in, then tore free with a sucking sound. Black fluid sprayed across the pavement, smoking where it landed. It didn't fall. It just straightened and kept coming. That's when I realized, these things don't die the way we do. And there were more of them coming through the smoke behind. I didn't wait for it to reach me. I turned and bolted for the nearest building, a boarded-up corner store with shattered windows. The glass crunched under my boots as I shoved inside. The smell hit me first. Rot, chemicals, and something metallic, like blood that had been sitting for days. Shelves lay scattered across the floor, cans and bottles crushed underfoot. I ducked behind a counter just as something heavy landed outside. The street went silent. Through the gap in the boards, I saw their shapes move past, dozens of them. They didn't hurry, didn't search, just drifted like they were waiting. Then the sound came, a slow drag of something sharp across the pavement, stopping right in front of the store. I held my breath. The boards over the window groaned. A hand, black, slick, and too long, slid through the gap. Fingers hooked the wood and pulled. Nails squealed. One board snapped. I backed away, stepping on something soft. I looked down. There was a body behind the counter, or what was left of one. Skin pale, eyes bulged. The mouth stretched open far wider than it should have been, as if it had died mid-scream. The wall to my left caved inward. One of them forced its way through, the frame buckling around its shoulders. Its faceless head turned toward me, and the air burned in my lungs just from standing near it. I ran for the back door, but it was already open, and something was waiting inside the dark. It stepped out of the darkness before I could turn. Not as tall as the others, but quicker, its movements snapping from one place to the next like a strobe light. One moment it was blocking the doorway, the next it was inches from my face. I swung the pipe, missed. It darted sideways with a twitch that didn't look possible, its limbs bending the wrong way. I didn't wait to try again. I shoved past and ran into the alley, my boots slamming against wet concrete. The air was thicker here, the chemical stench clawing at my throat until my eyes watered. Every breath felt like it was scraping the inside of my lungs. Behind me, the quick one followed. Its footsteps were wrong, too light for something so big, almost like it was floating between each step. I glanced back just long enough to see it crawl along the wall, its body flattening and stretching as it kept pace. I turned a corner and nearly slammed into another figure. This one didn't move. It just stood there, head tilting in sharp jerks, listening. The quick one behind me let out a sound. Low, rattling, almost like a cough. The standing figure answered with a deep, hollow click. Then they both came for me. I ran. My lungs were on fire, my legs shaking, but I kept going, weaving between dumpsters and broken fences until I burst into an open street. That's when I froze. The smoke had reached this part of the city. It rolled low, curling around cars and street lamps, and within it, more shapes moved. Not just the tall ones. Things that crawled, slithered, and dragged themselves through the haze. Every one of them turned toward me. The first step into the smoke burned like swallowing fire. I pulled my jacket over my mouth, but it didn't help. The air was poison, each breath clawing its way down my throat. My vision blurred, the streetlights bending into sickly halos. Something moved in front of me. I thought it was a man at first, hunched over, coughing. But as I got closer, I saw its arms were too long. Its spine arched like a broken animal. It turned, and where its mouth should have been was a single, gaping hole that whistled with each breath. I ran past it. Behind me, I heard the wet slap of feet giving chase. Shapes closed in from the sidewalks, thin legs sliding into view, claws scraping the pavement. Some were tall and still like statues. Others crawled low, their backs cracking as they bent in ways no bones should. The quick one from the alley darted through the haze above me, moving along the walls like a spider. I spotted a bus ahead, its door hanging open. I sprinted for it, coughing so hard I could barely see. My boots hit the first step, and a hand shot out from inside. It wasn't black and slick like the others, it was pale, human. A man yanked me in and slammed the door shut just as something slammed against the side of the bus, rocking it hard. "They're in the air now," the man rasped, his voice raw. Before I could ask what he meant, the roof of the bus dented inward with a sharp metallic groan. The quick one had found me. The roof caved in again, metal screaming. A thin, black arm punched through, fingers raking the air just above my head. The man shoved me toward the back. "Move!" Glass shattered on the left side, and another one slid halfway inside, its long torso folding unnaturally to squeeze through the window frame. The smell hit me like a wall, rot mixed with something chemical and sharp enough to sting my eyes. The man pulled a crowbar from under one of the seats and swung hard. It connected with a wet crack, spraying that black, smoking fluid across the aisle. The creature didn't scream. It just pulled itself the rest of the way in, ignoring the jagged glass slicing its sides. I grabbed the first thing I could find, a fire extinguisher, and drove it into the thing's head. It staggered, but the quick one dropped from the ceiling hole, landing in the aisle between us. Up close, I saw it clearly for the first time. Its body all sharp angles and stretched muscle, skin stretched so thin you could see dark fluid moving beneath it. Its faceless head twitched toward me, and it lunged. I swung the extinguisher with everything I had. Metal met bone, if it even had bone, and the impact knocked it sideways. The man grabbed my arm. "Out the back now!" We shoved open the emergency door and stumbled into the street. The smoke outside was thicker now, swallowing everything past a few feet. I could hear them moving in it, dozens, maybe more, circling. The man's voice was low and shaking. "We're not getting out of this city." Something moved in the fog behind him. I saw it too late. A tall shape emerged from the fog behind the man, its arm whipping forward like a striking snake. The claws went clean through his chest. His eyes went wide, but he didn't make a sound. Just a wet gasp as the thing lifted him off the ground. I backed away, my boots splashing through puddles of black water. The creature tilted its head toward me, the man still twitching in its grip. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, it pulled him into the smoke and vanished. The street was silent, except for the footsteps, not running, just pacing, circling. Every time I turned, they were somewhere else. The fog felt alive around me, curling and shifting like it was pushing me somewhere. I kept moving, my throat raw from the chemicals, my arms shaking from the fight in the bus. Shapes loomed in the haze, half-seen figures standing in doorways, perched on rooftops, crawling along walls. None of them rushed me. They didn't need to. Up ahead, the smoke thinned enough for me to see the power plant again, or what was left of it. The last cooling tower was collapsing in on itself, and from the crater in the center, something massive was rising. I couldn't see all of it, just the way the ground seemed to shift under its weight, and the enormous shadow stretching across the city. The sirens started again, distant but growing louder. Then a voice came through the fog, deep and steady, from somewhere impossibly close. "You shouldn't have stayed."